Today's topic is story structure. And if you've got 5 minutes, I've got 5 tips to help you structure your stories. This topic of story structure was something that was suggested by one of my viewers, and it's taken me a while to get to it, but here it is. Robert McKee is a writer who is known for his insights on story structure and storytelling. And he is a very well-respected screenwriting teacher who has written a book that you probably should read if you're writing fiction or narrative nonfiction. His book is called Story: Substance, Structure, and Style. And if you don't have this book on your shelf, you probably should. Now, as I've mentioned, the elements of story structure are very important to people writing fiction, imaginary stories, but they're also very important for people writing narrative nonfiction, because narrative nonfiction that's based on story structure is more powerful than that's not, that's just sort of a string of events. And I thought what I'd like to do today is to give you some insights about story structure based on Robert McKee's teaching. Now, you probably already have read something about the basic elements of story structure. If you look up story structure online, you're going to find hundreds, if not thousands, of different variations on the 3-act, 5-element story structure. Now, the 3 acts, those are very simple. Beginning, middle, end. Sounds reasonable. If you write an essay, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. However, when you're writing a story, the story structure also has theoretically 5 elements to it. Those 5 elements, generally speaking, from most people's perspectives, are exposition, conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. And they generally are graphed looking something like this. Well, you can use this rather didactic approach to creating your story, or you can use a more organic approach and understand story elements in a more organic way and create your structure that way. So I have 5 tips for you from Robert McKee's teachings. Tip number 1, begin a story with an inciting incident that grabs readers' attention. This incident should come as early in your narrative as possible. I can't tell you how often I've read a book where I've gone through chapter 1 and maybe I've gotten to chapter 2. I still haven't found out what the heck is going on. Nothing has really happened. There have been pages and pages of exposition. Nothing has happened, and therefore I've lost interest in the story. If you're writing a story like that, you're probably going to lose interest in it yourself. Something has to happen fairly early in the story. Should it be in the first paragraph? I don't know, sometimes it is in the first paragraph, but there are no rules about it having to be there. But it should be fairly near the beginning of a story, that something happens that puts your main character into a situation that they have to deal with. Otherwise, there's no action and nothing's happening. This incident has to disrupt your protagonist's world, because if there's no disruption, it's really boring. Tip number 2, carefully consider the turning points in your story. McKee highlights the importance of these changes in the direction of the story, that the story can't keep flowing in one direction, that there have to be turning points. These turning points often happen at the end of particular segments of the story. These are the kinds of things that alter your protagonist's beliefs, actions, goals, circumstances. All of these things are possibilities of the things that can be altered by a turning point. Tip number 3, develop the conflict and subsequent rising action to escalate the tension and raise the stakes. Conflict is actually at the heart of storytelling, and McKee really stresses the importance of raising the stakes for your protagonist. Now, it's interesting because we have a tendency to think about raising the stakes as being in, say, thriller stories, for example. But it can be in a romance, it can be in historical fiction, it can be in a western, it can be in any kind of genre where there's a story to be told. It can be in humor. It doesn't have to be in something where you expect specific kinds of conflict or tension. Tip number 4, ensure that your protagonist's response to the crisis moment directly affects the story's outcome. McKee emphasizes the importance of your protagonist facing a critical decision that has an impact on how the story ends or how it's resolved. And this crisis and your protagonist's response to it build toward the climax of the story. Tip number 5, make sure your story's resolution ties up all the loose ends. This tying up of loose ends provides closure for your audience. McKee suggests that an effective ending resonates with your readers, and it offers them a satisfying end to the journey that they've been on with your characters. So these principles can help you to create an engaging and coherent story without sticking didactically to the original 5 elements of story structure, although if you went and looked at a story afterwards written this way, you'll probably find all of those elements, but it's an awful lot more fun to write it in this organic way. Happy writing.
Subscribe to Write, Fix, Repeat, and maybe I can help you improve your writing knowledge and skills. 5 tips at a time.